Today we're going to look at the case between Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica and the lawsuit that arose between the two based on copyright laws. We really need to look at Star Wars as a movie-making industry first before we can really get into the details of the case and intellectual property law. We can see Star Wars was first released in the 1970s. It was directed by George Lucas, and it was Lucasfilms partnered with 20th Century Fox in order to make this movie. It was an immediate success, generated massive amounts of profit, and then went on to be a 6-movie series under the leadership of George Lucas and with 20th Century Fox and Lucasfilms. We see a big part of their success, I believe, was due to the toys that they made. They produced lightsabers, costumes, lunchboxes, and Legos, all sorts of different items that they were able to sell, which I believe increased their popularity among different age groups as well as their profit. Even today, their action figures and toys are still collected by adult fans and children fans. So I believe that all of that added to their profit and popularity. We see that Star Wars and Lucasfilms was purchased by Disney inside of 2012. And even before this purchase, Star Wars had made billions of dollars in profit through their movies and through their products. But even afterwards, it was just as profitable under Disney as Disney released more movies, more TV shows, and they really tapped into Disney Plus in order to generate popularity and profit. So that's a little history of Star Wars and its founding and where it is today. But to go back in time to the 1970s, we have to study this lawsuit between Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica. We can see that a year after Star Wars was first released, Battlestar Galactica was also released, and it was a 24-episode TV show set inside of a similar setting as Star Wars, space travel, we have aliens, and it was really similar to Star Wars, so much so that Star Wars believed that there had been copy and pasting going on, and so they 20th Century Fox sued Universal for the creation of Battlestar Galactica, citing that there were too many similarities between the two works and that Battlestar Galactica had in fact copied Star Wars and they were just too similar. This ended up being a 5-year-long lawsuit that was eventually settled privately between the two parties and not publicly. None of the courts, it went through multiple courts, none of the courts ever sided definitely with one party or the other. It was left up to the two companies to settle. We can see a list of some of the similarities that Star Wars claimed were between Battlestar Galactica and their work Star Wars. We see there was a captured princess, there was a helpful robot, a destroyed planet, totalitarian forces, and a fighter jet scene at the end, as well as many other similarities between the two. Now, to understand whether or not these really infringe on the copyright laws in place to protect works like Star Wars, we have to look at intellectual property law as a whole. Intellectual property law was made and in order to protect people's property, in order to protect their inventions, their books, their ideas, so that they can profit off of what they make. I believe intellectual property law does really encourage economical growth, because when people don't have any promise of being able to profit off of their ideas and what they invent, there's no encouragement to invent and to create. And so that really just stunts a society because they aren't able to benefit from working any harder than they already are. So I believe that this is very important to follow. It protects people's inventions, it protects their livelihoods. Now, with that in mind, we have to look at whether or not Battlestar Galactica was a copyright infringement of Star Wars. Copyright is meant to protect a lot of fictional works. A lot of fictional works are involved in copyright, musical works, but it protects tangible items that came from a person's mind. There are many things that are tangible and came from a person's mind, and their ideas that are not anybody's in specifics property. Those belong in the public domain. So we can see a lot of princesses, such as Cinderella, are inside of the public domain. We see Pinocchio inside the public domain. That means anybody could use any of those characters inside of their books or movies or TV shows. Star Wars, though, is not in the public domain. It won't be for some time. And that is why Battlestar Galactica has the issue of the lawsuit, because Star Wars believed that Battlestar Galactica used their works without their permission, and this would take away from Star Wars' profit and really hurt their business. But do I believe that this was really a copyright infringement? I think it's not as difficult as it was or it wasn't, because we really have to look at sci-fi. Sci-fi is just, it's a genre, and genres tend to have similar themes and similar plot points throughout them. So when you look at sci-fi genre as a whole, you see that a lot of different media pieces and a lot of different books have similar plot points and similar themes. And I believe that Battlestar Galactica wasn't really off point from those as a whole. So Star Wars believed that the aesthetics for Battlestar Galactica were too similar to their own. I don't believe that Star Wars can own an aesthetic, because those belong to everybody. It's not something that can be owned. And Star Wars did pull from a lot of modern, real-day ideas, and they pulled from a lot of things that they see around them, and so you can't really own stuff that you can see in everyday life. So for example, Star Wars really pulls from like a 60s diner scene, and Battlestar Galactica does as well. I don't believe Star Wars can own the idea of a 60s diner scene. So no, I do not believe that Battlestar Galactica was in the wrong. I do not believe that they stole property from Star Wars. I think that they were within their rights to create a fictional work, even if it is similar to Star Wars. They didn't steal from Star Wars, and they did create their own original work. Now, how do I think that this affects the environment surrounding sci-fi? I believe that it's important to note that Star Wars doesn't own sci-fi genre, and I believe that if you go around suing people for having similar ideas and similar movies and similar books as you, that is really going to stunt it's going to stunt creativity. People won't want to make books or movies if they think that they could get sued for creating them, and that'll really just not give us as much entertainment. People aren't going to enjoy entertainment as much if people are so concerned with creating something that has never been done in the past and that won't potentially get them a lawsuit. So I think it's important that people are allowed to be creative, people are allowed to draw on ideas they've seen before. As long as they're not copying and pasting it, I think it's okay if people are allowed to be creative, even if they are getting inspiration from works that came before them. Thank you.